everybody. We are live. Today is Saturday, March 16th, and it's another great day not to be infected with coronavirus. In addition to this program, we also host a blog on our website at patasinc.org. Several times a week it is updated. There you can also donate to our organization. If you go to patas.org/donate, you can follow the instructions through PayPal. We'd like to thank our usual people, LGTB Bus, Reggie Passion, International Evolutionary Humanist. I'm always going to struggle with these pronunciations. I'm just terrible with it, so I'm not going to read the names. Secular Therapy Project, Recovering from Religion, Pro PH. And we also have Plus, Sue and Sean Hodgins, that's a little easier to say, of the Venus Project, as well as Justin see what I mean? Justin of the PATAS administration. And we also like to thank Quantum Noise for their efforts in helping out with the group as well. This is a call-in show. You can call by visiting the link on the screen right down there. It says bit.ly/PATAScall. If you don't want to call into the show today, or you are not able to, you can email live@patasinc.org. And today, we have our wonderful co-host, John Joe. Say hi, everybody, to John. John, you are on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good evening. Hi, I'm John Joe. Hi, Ben.
Hey.
What's up?
Oh,
round
not a whole
two.
lot.
Round
two.
two.
Round three for me, but yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. All right. I want to say just a little something before we start, because I think there was some confusion in the last episode in regards to who I am and what I do. So I'm just going to reintroduce myself, if that's okay.
Yeah, go crazy.
Yeah, so I'm a former broadcaster in radio. I primarily specialize in music and comedy. So I was forwarded some messages about me not being a professional or or like knowledgeable in some stuff. Well, because I am the layman, I think that's my role here to balance stuff out. And in Tagalog, di lang, so people don't get like off-putted that it's all like, serious jargon, because we got to have some fun once in a while. And this is supposed to be an entertaining show. So that's what I'm trying to put on the table, I guess, just to make it clear to some people. I've been an atheist for 20 years, and I don't join the forums, discussions, or debates, basically. Yeah, so that's it. Just to clear the air for some people who may think I'm a smarty pants know-it-all.
Yeah, none of us are experts here. We're not experts in anything. We don't claim to be. We're just here giving our thoughts. And I'm only an expert on my opinion. That's all I'm really an expert on. I'm barely an expert on that. So yeah, we're gonna do our best to respond to comments and be as knowledgeable as we can. But we don't claim to be experts. We're not scientists. We're not theologians or studied in biblical history or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
So today's topic I have lined up is today's topic is, why don't you just read this? Some people might be confused by what I'm getting at with that, but essentially what I'm trying to get at is that I've had a lot of people in the last years of talking and about this subject, and others that say, well, here's a link, just read this article, it'll explain everything. Here's a video, just watch this video, it'll convert you right to creationism, and I have an objection to that. And my biggest objection is, if you can't explain in simple terms what it is that you're trying to propose, then you don't really understand it.
Understand it.
And,
exactly.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm not trying to dismiss what they're linking. I'm just trying to say that when I'm having a one-on-one conversation, it makes sense that if you're going to be proposing something, that at least you understand what it is you're proposing. Otherwise, why should I be listening to you? I should just go read the article and talk to that person. So
exactly.
But the other problem I have with it is,
it's like
because sometimes I actually will go and read or watch the video, come back and give my thoughts. This happened with one of the people in the group. I won't mention names, but he sent me a video, or she sent me a video, and I said, okay, I've watched the video, here's my thoughts, and I even quoted specific parts of the video. And he said, well, obviously you didn't really watch the video. And that's so dismissive and insulting. First of all, if you're going to ask me to watch it and I tell you that I did, don't fucking tell me that I didn't. That's ridiculous. I get so peeved with that
Yeah.
kind of behavior. Anyway, what
Yeah,
do you
because
think about that?
you know how like when you hear or when you read something, there's the voice in your head which accentuates certain parts, or you're reading it to yourself basically. So there is a bias in some way that the good parts will resonate with you, and the parts that you disagree with, you just basically throw it away. You disregard it. So yeah, it's like in a drinking session. Imagine we're out in a bar drinking, having a friendly discussion, not a debate, and then I throw that. Well, you should read this. Who's gonna do that? You know, it's supposed to be friendly conversation, and all of a sudden, you throw them the book and say, "Oh, you should watch this. You should read that." Whoever you're talking to is not gonna go on their phone and Google it and read it while everyone's drinking and having fun. You know, that's reserved for a different time. It's not when you're having this sort of discussion. It's just odd. It's odd
Yeah.
when people say that. It's I don't know. It's
And
a
and I
defense
don't.
mechanism, that's for sure.
And it's not that I'm objecting to someone leaking to something. Again, if we're in a conversation and there's something
Mm.
that you think is super important and super critical, like perhaps an argument that's laid out so you don't have to type it all out. You know, that you can say, all right, here's the argument that I'm
Mm-hmm.
proposing, and it's laid all out step by step. Here's the premises and the conclusion. Of course, I'll read that and we can address it, which is something that also happened this week. But if you're
Yeah.
going to ask me to read a 20-page article or watch a 45-minute video on creationism, and then when I tell you that I've watched it, tell me that I didn't, because apparently if I watched it, I would agree with you. That's closed-minded, and I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
That's dishonest
Yeah.
because and then the
Yes,
other
it
thing
is.
is you're assuming that I didn't already see something like this or hear this argument when I've been doing this for like 10
Mm.
years and I've heard just about every argument. Granted, there's different, it comes in different forms. There's different versions
Mm.
of it, but it's all based on the same thing. I mean, somebody asked me this week to read up on I think it was, I can't remember his first name, of Ferris or Ferries. He has a couple arguments that are twisted on the Aristotelian, ancient, not ancient, but like older arguments for the existence of God. And it's like, these are already out
Mm-hmm.
there. I've already addressed these. Just because I didn't address his specific version, what is he going to suddenly add evidence to it? Because unless he's doing that, there's not really anything new to address. It's the same argument with a different,
Yes.
different paint job. Um,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
fuzzy language, different language, and this is what they do all the time. The same thing happened when they were doing the evolution creationism books. I don't know if you heard about this. The Pandas and People in the U.S. They had
Mm-hmm.
originally they had creationism and creation inside the book when they talked about it, and then it got switched to some happy language or some legally acceptable language, which was intelligent design and intelligent design proponentsists. So
Mm-hmm.
and that was actually the misspelling they used, proponentsists instead of proponents. But it's
Yeah.
very
I totally get that. I totally get that because well, in regards to the terminologies being changed over time, I feel it's I wouldn't say it's a cop out, but it's in Tagalog it's a palusot. Like have you heard of what you call this the death tax and what it originally was?
Are you asking me?
So, anyways, they changed the words. Yeah, yeah. Did you
No,
ever
I
hear
haven't heard of
about
that.
how what the original term of the death tax was? And then they
I
had a
don't think
survey,
so.
and then it's an estate tax. It's actually called an estate tax, but most common people don't think about estate taxes. When you die, you have to pay tax. Okay, that's an estate tax. And then they reworded it to the death tax, and they actually conducted surveys with random people, and of course they were all like against the death tax because of the word death, because it
Right.
resonates with them that, oh no, I'm not going to pay. But in reality, it's estate tax. They just
Hey, it all
reworded
comes.
it.
It's all with how you present it. It's
You
all
get
about
what
the
I'm saying?
presentation. Yeah, yeah.
Did
Hang
I
on.
get cut off?
I think we're having audio issues. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. My audio keeps switching to voice from voice to push to talk on Discord. Sorry about that. Um,
That's okay.
anyway, yeah. So that's
But yeah, it's just my point was just the simple switching of terms to fit modern era and this whole generation of call outs and sensitivity and whatever you want to call it. It's
It's all
always
about the
easy to
language
fluff
used.
words up and make it sound new. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the language that they use, and that's really very common, and it's very common, especially with these religious arguments, because they rehash them with new words, or maybe add a couple of new fuzzy premises that make things a little more obfuscated and difficult to follow, so that it
Hmm.
sounds more compelling, and it does neither. So it's not
Yeah, I
it's,
totally agree.
it doesn't make it more true. It
In
doesn't add
fact,
any evidence. Um,
mhm.
Go
But
ahead.
yeah, in regards to the you should read this, it applies to, I guess, even books or comic books and movies and music. It can relate to that. That if you're having an argument about the current time about a particular genre or music, then
Right.
you'll always have the high and mighty, well, gatekeepers who will say, "Oh, but have you listened to 80s rock? Have you read this book that was written back in the early 90s about the 80s to 70s regression of sound and blah 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 blah." If the person is doesn't have the facility to read those long form literature, then you won't be having a, what you call this, a beneficial conversation. It's, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's some type of um peacocking on authority based on the past.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, and then it really comes down to another issue with logical arguments in general, for me, which is okay. So a logical argument has two qualities. It must be validly structured, and Aristotle and
Hmm.
his logicians went through all of those decades and centuries ago. But I think there's
Hmm.
256 logical forms, and then there's also the the soundness, which is the content of the argument. So if you can present a logical argument that is validly structured, that doesn't tell you anything about whether or not it's actually true in reality. For example,
Hmm.
all all dogs are born with three legs. Paul is a dog, therefore Paul has three legs. Well, there's nothing wrong with the structure. It's just that all dogs, in fact, do not have three legs. So it's not sound. And so
Yeah.
you have to also demonstrate the truth of the premises, not just create a valid argument. Of course, in this case, I don't think anybody's even created a validly structured argument for the existence of God. All of them have some fallacy or another. Uh, but even if they could do that, it doesn't get you any closer to the God. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I stand on that. But
Well,
I
I feel
enjoy
it's,
discussing them anyway. But go ahead.
yeah, it is a treat to discuss. But when it all boils down to it, I believe when it comes to faith, in our case, or the lack thereof in a
Right.
particular thing, it's more really of a personal journey. That's really how I see it. That's why, when I think we discussed this last week of how I got to where I was,
Yeah.
it's because of years and years and years of observation, of, let's say, study, because I did read back in the day, but it's not like it retained because I'm full of like
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe information. The brain can only take so much, because
Yeah, I
at
agree.
some point I just stopped debating. I stopped having to run through circles with these people who just kept regurgitating the same argument over and
Right.
over again. It gets to that point where you just start living and you stop um, arguing, basically. You can
Well,
still discuss, but
for some
arguing
people,
is a waste of time.
I actually still enjoy arguing. But
Yeah,
here's
there
the
is a
thing.
high to it, though.
There,
There is a high to debating,
yeah,
discussing, and it's the gotcha. I gotcha. People love that, dude. It's like a drug. It's so awesome when you can show someone off, but at the same time, you can either look smart or you can look like an asshole.
I think I do both very effectively. But I will say this: as far as the arguments go, yeah, I don't have them all memorized. I don't have all the biblical verses that I used to have memorized now. Just the good ones. But it's like, I used to love having, biblical memories of things back when I was first starting out about
Oh
this, because
no,
I thought that
our
that was an
audio is hot
effective.
again.
Oh, so let me fix the audio.
Go
Sorry
ahead
about
and
that.
eat. It's gonna be a while.
Sorry about that. So I thought
Oh,
the
no problem. Don't worry.
I thought studying the Bible was a really effective way to argue against Christianity, and then I learned that it really actually isn't. Because even if I can
Mhm.
demonstrate that the Bible is false or flawed, there's going to be people who have already come up with tons of post hoc rationalizations to justify their beliefs.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
because it's just the nature of it. And then it also, I started to realize that even if I can argue effectively against the Bible, that doesn't prove there isn't a God. It just doesn't. So it's pointless.
Mhm.
The only sense in which it's helpful is for people who perhaps would be compelled by that, who think that it's a moral instruction, to point out why I don't think it is, and then address what I think is a better form of morality, which is why I have certain verses still memorized because I use them all the time. But as far as
Mhm.
actually, oh, here's a contradiction, here's this and that, well, actually, some interpretations, that's probably not a contradiction. Some interpretations would say, oh, that verse is actually not God inspired. I mean, there's all kinds of different excuses that these people use, and you can't just broad brush that, oh, this is going to be viewed as a contradiction. It's a slam dunk argument, because it just doesn't work that
I
way.
totally get that.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about my audio. It's a live show. This is what happens. So, I don't know what's causing the audio to keep cutting out. Discord is just being a bit of a butt. So we have a couple of people not lined up for calls, but a couple of people chatting. I think we have one person on hold, but I haven't yet. I don't think they've gotten screened yet. So I'm going to go through the chat here. We got some people in chat listening. Thank you for being here, everyone. We got S. Roderick Roxas from Oregon. He says, hello from Oregon. Nice to see you. Nice to see other secular humanists and atheists in the Philippines. Thank you. It's nice to see you, too. We're very happy to be doing this show, and I think it's very important for the Philippines to have this sort of information around. This person also said, have
Mhm.
you guys heard of the term apatheist? I don't think I have. I'm not really sure what that is. I will look it up, though. Have you heard of it, John?
Yeah, we're gonna have to Google that. We're gonna have to Google that.
I have to
I
Google it.
may
Yeah,
have
okay.
in passing, but it's not something that would be retained because yeah, it's.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to learn about that.
I see. It's a very simple.
I'm just thinking.
Oh, go
Mhm.
ahead.
I'm just taking from the word. What was it called again? What was the word?
Apatheism or
Apatheist.
apatheism? Apatheist? Yeah.
So is it apathy and atheism at the same time?
Essentially, it's defined
Okay.
apparently as an apatheist is someone who is not interested in accepting or rejecting any God claims that gods exist or don't exist. And I will say this: that is already a problem for me because either you do believe in a God or you do not believe there is any God. You can't
Mhm.
reject um, the atheist position because it's not a positive claim to knowledge. You either are an atheist or you are a theist. Now, I can understand someone adopting the label apatheist to say that they're not interested in discussing these things. That's fine. Um, but if you're
Yeah,
going
it's
to
a
say
way
that,
of dodging.
yeah, if you're going to say that you reject any claim that a god does or doesn't exist, you are an atheist by definition. So apatheism is an unnecessary term for that. Um, I think it's just adding more confusion, if anything else. Apatheist, I don't care. Yeah, that's one way I could see it being used. Angelo said apatheist equals I don't care, and I'm fine with that. Perhaps that is a definition, but you still,
Mhm.
if you don't actively believe in a god, you are an atheist. So
Mhm.
just to
Well,
clear up that definition.
I
Go ahead.
yeah, because with the whole apathy part, so yeah, the word again, apathy is, um, I get it because sometimes I can discuss atheist thoughts or religious thoughts with people who want to. Yet there are people who want to discuss it, but you don't want to discuss it with them, whether it's their style of speaking or typing or their logic. So it's like saying that we're better off not discussing this because I guess that's just me showing apathy. Because there are some people that I know I'll hurt their feelings if I bring it up. Or there's this saying that when with friends, when drinking, we're at gatherings, you never discuss politics or religion. That's something that I kind of tend to lean on because I'm already abrasive with when it comes to jokes and stupidity and vices. That I don't include that. So that I guess that's me being apathetic. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what
that
I'm
is
gathering from that conversation.
That is kind of. I don't know why we need the word.
It could
To
also
me,
mean something like selective conversation, where you know you can speak to someone on a level playing field,
yes,
and then there's some people that you just can't speak to that way because they won't allow it. They won't put down their guards or their shields because they're
exactly.
pretty much
And
set.
I'm not apathetic, but even if I was apathetic as an atheist, I wouldn't probably adopt that label because there's already a word for apathetic, which is apathetic. So I would
Mm,
just use that. I think it
yeah,
just adds confusion. Which
yeah,
somebody in the chat also said, yeah, they agree it adds confusion. So I don't really see the point
yeah.
in that kind of label. Still no callers lined up. Everybody, if you are watching and you are interested in calling into the show, if you're a theist, we do take theist callers. They get preference, but we would welcome anybody to call in and talk about anything you want to. So go to bit.ly/PATAS call. Open the Discord and you can jump in
Hmm.
and get in a call. We'd love to have you. So let's just continue on for now.
Yeah. You
Um,
get Yeah, you guys can talk about or ask us pretty much anything. Like I'll bring up
yeah,
something, Ben. I mentioned before we started airing that I actually discovered, well, throughout the day, that I actually suffer from panic attacks, and it's
yeah,
coupled with atheist. Oh, sorry, with asthma. Not so it's my panic attacks and my asthma. So when I was to watch videos and read a few articles about anxiety attacks and stuff, one of the symptoms is the fear of death. And I do have to fucking say, man, last night I was fucking scared shitless. Like I did get that feeling of fuck, I'm in death's fucking door. And apparently that's one of the symptoms, one of the hard symptoms of having a panic attack.
oh
And
yeah,
with the asthma, like not being able to breathe and all that, like I can say I didn't say oh god. I did say that I only say that during sex, but during my me facing this thought of death, not at any point I wasn't I didn't use that crutch. I started loading up the computer and whatever I could find just to try and figure out what was going on. And it's strange though that something like that, psychological and stressful, can lead you to thoughts of your impending doom. So I know some atheists struggle with that idea. Like we all know we're gonna die, correct? So it's like, how do we deal with it?
I'm pretty
There's
sure
a bit
dying
of
is the
acceptance,
one
which is
thing none of us can
also
avoid.
what's
So,
yeah. But
um,
there's this thing about the writings and literature about panic attacks, that one of the points there is acceptance. It's letting go and knowing that it's all in your head. Whatever's stressing you out, whatever's increasing the pressures that are making you panic or anxious. See, that's why you gotta just you gotta goose fraba. You gotta. It's hard. It's not easy. Even till now, I'm still double thinking myself in regards to, is this really something wrong with me? So slowly,
well,
slowly but surely, it's that little level of acceptance.
yeah. I mean, I will say this about panic attacks. 'Cause I have panic attacks too, not as often as I used to, but I still do occasionally get panic attacks. And one of the things that I realize is that meditation really helps. And I don't mean like any sort of spiritual meditation. I mean just deep breathing exercises, either during a panic attack or when one is coming up.
Mhm.
And it's not a perfect
Yeah.
solution. There is no perfect solution, but I have found that it is caused mainly by exactly what you were talking about, which is the sensation that you're going to die. And it's very hard to shake
Yeah.
that, especially right in the middle of a panic attack. And the best thing I
Hmm.
can do or offer, at least as a suggestion, I'm not a skilled or licensed therapist of any kind, but the best thing I can do as offer as a suggestion is to make sure that you just focus on your breathing, focus on the positive things in your life, and try to do essentially what's called oh gosh, there's a word for it when you're talking and say positive affirmations. That's the word I was thinking of. I knew I'd get to it.
Hmm.
Positive affirmations like I am fine, I am okay, I am safe, and just repeating that slowly in your head, out loud if you can, and say I am in control of my breathing,
Yeah.
I am in control of my life, I am no longer uh, or susceptible to panic, things like that. It helps to release that from your brain. It basically rewrites your subconscious as it's happening. There's a lot of studies on that show that
Mhm.
how that works. So again, there's no perfect solution, but it really does help me every time I start to feel like I'm going to have a panic attack to focus on my breathing, because that's the biggest thing,
See, now
especially with asthma.
I'm gonna bring up something that came up too in what I was learning and reading, which is something I did observe.
Right.
So I found myself. I'll just pick this up. I found myself staring at objects on the table, and that was kind of calming me down. So in regards to faith, now that I was able to think about this throughout the day, like
Hmm.
maybe quotation marks, guys, everyone listen, maybe this is the power of iconic items in the religious form, such as a rosary. Had I not been staring at my vape juices or the particular objects on my table, I found myself to be gripping really hard, like for example this lighter, and it was able to help me focus my thoughts and everything into this singular object. So I'm kind of thinking again that maybe that's also something that's related to theistic iconology, like rosaries or even crucifixes and stuff like that, because you're able to focus on an item, which later on you
Right.
find kind of does calm you down, kind of does chill you down. But it's not the object in itself. It's the act of having something to stare and observe and distract you from what you're going through up
I
here.
I think the word for that is grounding, but I'm not an expert on that. But there's a couple. Oh, I lost my audio again. Hang on, I'm gonna try to fix this permanently here. Okay, sorry, I keep losing my audio. So
Hmm.
I think
The
the
word
word for
for
that
that.
is grounding. Um,
Hmm.
and grounding is like there's different ways. Schizophrenics do this all the time when they're hallucinating. They will ask another person, "Hey, do you see this thing? Did you see that just now?" They'll ask someone, one of their friends or someone they're nearby or coworker, "Did you just see that?" And if they say no, that reminds them to, "Oh, okay, this is just a hallucination." And so, kind of what
Hmm.
you're doing is similar. I don't know if it is, but it's similar to grounding. It seems like. Um,
Yeah,
it's kind of this reinforcing that I'm here in reality and everything is fine.
that's
But
exactly the point of, yeah. It's basically, it reminds you that you're here right now, and this is
yeah,
happening, and your panic attack or your problems and all that, it's all in your head. So it's odd though, because my girlfriend the next day, well, yeah, she mentioned that as soon as she turned on the TV, because I was in the kitchen and she turned on the TV in the sala, and I kind of started to calm down because I guess it made me feel like I was in a familiar place
right.
or something like that. So maybe the TV is prayer or song hymns, and the lighter or vape juice I was staring at is my crucifix or my
that's
rosary.
that's
I
very
don't know. I was
interesting.
just trying to join my experience with what we were supposed to discuss today. I don't know. It's just me
Yeah, no, that's totally
thinking
fine.
out loud.
There's a couple of comments from the chat. I'll read them to you. One of them says, "John, panic attacks with insomnia or without?" In other words, I guess are
Oddly
you
enough,
having insomnia?
yeah, 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 I am. It's I've noticed because it happened like two times. Because I can't tell if it's asthma or the panic attack itself. So it does happen like when it's time to go to bed, but usually it's like 3, 4 in the morning. So and it turns
Yeah.
crazy.
My panic attacks have
So yeah,
usually been associated with insomnia, but not always. So sometimes it's just an overwhelming stress. Because for me, what happens is I will bottle up my feelings for a very long time and not actually face them, which I know is a stupid thing to do, but I do it anyway. And what happens
Mhm.
is my OCD starts to take over, and I start ruminating on these bad thoughts over and over and over again, and then eventually it becomes overwhelming, and my brain will start to panic. That's kind of where it
Mhm.
goes from for me. Couple more comments here. I don't think atheists would be too bothered by the idea of hell. I'm an agnostic deist, but I believe that hell is a sort of mental construct. You make your own heaven or hell. I
Oh,
suppose
that's
that's
cool.
That's a cute way of looking at it. I don't know if I would put too much stock in that though.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, because hell can also mean a bunch of different stuff depending on the person.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
loneliness can be hell.
oh yeah, for me,
Imagine,
loneliness is
imagine.
heaven. So I don't know, but yeah, I totally get it.
See, that's why it's
I
different. But
actually like being alone. What are your thoughts on deism, John? Because I have a couple thoughts on that, but I don't want to dig too deep on it if it's not an interesting topic to anyone.
no, actually, why don't you set us up with an example or start the ball rolling, and then I'll jump in.
Sure, my mother described herself as a deist. I would say she was more of a pantheist, but
Mm.
she thought that there was a higher power, but not a specific God. She didn't believe in any sort of religious beliefs. She didn't vote on along any lines of moral thoughts about what God wanted. For example, she was pro abortion, or I guess pro I don't know what you would call it, but um, some people call it anti-life, which I think is just funny. But she was in support of the right of people
Pro-choice.
to have abortions. Pro-choice, thank you. Uh, I don't usually think about abortion all that much because it's a nasty topic. But there's I mean, I'm in favor of people having the right to do it. I just don't like to talk about it too much because it's not really relevant. And then
Mhm.
there's um, like my mom would always vote for democratic progressive people to come into office, that kind of thing. So she wasn't ever voting along the lines of any sort of Christian doctrine or anything like that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that kind of thinking or that sort of God, but I
Oh,
could give some thoughts
I
too.
do. I totally do. I grew up in a household like that. Oddly enough, we were raised Roman Catholic, and until maybe early teens, we were required to go to church and stuff like that. But my father was a quite unique person who believed in a higher power. He always stressed out that it was not the God in the Bible or any other books, because he was religious studies major. He even put up his own like facility where people could voice out these opinions and stuff. His thing was he even had, you know how like we have the sign of the cross, right, for Catholics and
Yeah.
Christians. His thing was kind of different. It was always and he taught this to us as we were kids. It's God and I are one. This is the truth. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. That was his like mantra. So it was like the God and I are one. This is the truth. That's basically his preaching or his way of thinking, is that the God is universal and every God is basically you, because you create your own world. You're the one that interacts with it. You're accountable for the consequences. You're to be praised for your accomplishments. There's no one else that can affect your life but you. So in his point of view is like God is the universe. God is everything that is envelope, is all part of that one big package of life in general. And what you plant is what you'll get. So what you reap is what you sow. So
So
that's my
it sounds like
experience there.
what you're trying to say,
But
if
we
I
didn't have crosses, we didn't have rosaries, we didn't have giant
oh
Mama
sorry.
Marys or little black baby Jesuses in our homes. There's nothing like that.
So would you say that that was deistic? I think is what you're saying. I think it, I mean
Yeah.
it sounds to me like he was sort of a believer in like a Catholic doctrine, but didn't really hold it too strongly. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, there was no need to go to church. There was no need to respect priests. Priests to him were his debate forum. We had a lot of friends that were priests. Like, don't get me wrong there. Like, it was always pleasant discussions with him, but his general thought was always the power of affirmation, the power of being able to make things happen because you want it. If you're a good person, good things will happen to you. And God in itself is the universe that you create for yourself. So you're responsible for whether you're happy, whether you're sad, when
Yeah,
outside forces try to give you some negativity,
I have heard that a
it's
lot. Yeah,
your power.
I
Yeah.
have
So
definitely heard that a lot.
he read a lot. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I'm.
guess that's Deus because he did have a god. He did have a god, but it wasn't the god
So
that anyone else claimed.
do you have any objections to deism? Because I do, but I'm wondering if you have any.
Well, there was always conflict in regards to dealing with other people because they don't like hearing that, oh, you have another god, he's better than ours. That
Right.
caused him trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, instead of not having one in total, even more, he became somewhat the enemy
Oh yeah.
because he was offering a choice to other religious people, which in turn was offensive because thou shall not have any gods before me.
Right. No,
And
I think
the other thing is that
that's a big problem, and I will actually tack on to that. That happened to my mom too, when she was espousing her non-religious deistic point of view. Her sister basically caused such a rift between the two of them that they were unable to actually talk to each other anymore, which is kind of unfortunate because they grew up together, they loved each other for so long, but the religion had so poisoned her sister
Mhm.
that she was unable to see past the fact that she just couldn't believe this anymore because of, reasons XYZ. And instead just said, you know what, I'm going to completely just cause a rift in this family where we can no longer associate without this being the main topic of discussion. And that's one of my biggest
Mhm.
objections to religions in general, but because they ostracize people. If you, they,
Yeah.
what's funny, they think that the religion is inclusive when it's actually exclusive, and they think that
Yeah.
it's a good thing when it's actually really not a good thing. I mean, it's not like religions can do no good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it seems
Mhm.
like the religion on itself is, on the whole, more harmful for society than it is good. But as far as
Yeah. And
deism goes, well, real quick, I just want to finish, and then I'll let you tack onto
mhm.
this.
Yeah.
But my objection to deism is that it is still a false belief, and I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And when I say it's a false belief, I
Mhm.
don't mean that you can confirm there is no God. I just mean I should aptly say it's not true. It hasn't been demonstrated to be true. It's probably a better way of putting that. But my
Yeah.
point would be having beliefs that are not demonstrated to be true, such as deism, can lead to other potentially false beliefs as well. And so that would be my biggest objection to
Yeah.
deism. On the whole, they're not nearly as bad as the religious, but I will still I will still reject it. Anyway,
Mhm.
I'll let you talk for a while now. I'll shut up.
So that's the thing you brought up. Brings up other beliefs. So what happened was, I think the adverse effect of having that everything, the universe, and everything is good, everything is God, everything is possible, opened the doors to superstition. I think that's the
Yeah.
one Achilles heel that it had in regards to my experience living with my father. And when
Oh
you
yeah.
mentioned about your mother being ostracized, my dad was actually like me. That's why I became a broadcaster. He was a broadcaster. And it's
Oh.
actually publicized that he was the son of the devil because of the
Oh.
way he thought outside the church. But
That's
surprisingly enough,
that's a pretty
all of
honorable
us were
thing to be.
baptized. The son of the devil. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather be
But
the
that's the
son of the
thing. He
devil
he
than the son
never
of God, but that's just me.
and he was friends with the INC guys, with Soriano. In fact, when my siblings got baptized, it's like Cardinal Sin was there and all that. Like like high ranking people at the time in the church and all that. So he wasn't going on all out debates with him,
Mm.
but the fact that he was offering something different to the norm made him the devil. But this is also the same time that rock and roll was the devil's music. Anything that changed perspective was evil. Anything different was evil. So I do
Yeah.
have to give him that. But the whole you can do it yourself thing, that whole positivity, because you have a lot of motivational speakers nowadays who have still been using that ever since. Even you could even say fitness gurus and all that, they all use that particular mindset
I have a
in enforcing people that you can do it on your own.
I have a cousin who's one of those people. She's a really great fitness trainer. I'm not trying to, shit on her or anything. But
Mm.
she's one of those who has that sort of fitness guru, um, pseudo healing kind of thing, or like pseudoscience healing kind of thing. But it's not as bad as some that I'm aware of. But anyway, we have another comment from the
Hmm.
chat which says some occult beliefs run along the line or the idea of the apotheosis of the self. You are in your own right a god in your own world. Yeah, I reject that. Sorry.
Oh.
I mean, I don't disagree that you can phrase it that way. I just don't see the point because it's kind of like it reminds me of this conversation we had earlier this week in the PATAS forum group, which was all about what is the purpose of your life if there is no God? And then somebody brought up the fact that, oh well, if you're an atheist, you are your own God. And it's like, well, if by that you mean that I'm ascribing my own purpose to my life, then sure, I'm my own God, if that's all you think God is. But if you
Hmm.
think that God is actually more than just my purpose, then I think you're using the word incorrectly. Because I don't worship myself. I don't I don't think I have all power and I'm not all knowing. So if that's what you think a God is just something that gives you purpose and nothing else, then saying that I'm being my own God is accurate. But if you don't think that, then you're just posturing, and I don't really have any interest in it whatsoever.
Hmm. Well, there was this saying. Oh, I don't even remember if I heard it from my dad, but it kept with me for the longest time. That I don't know if I read it or I heard it from him, or it's that life is a movie. You're the director, the writer, the star, the producer, and everyone else around you is the cast. I know this has
Um,
been mentioned. I think even in movies that
Sounds like the
you
Truman
are
Show.
in control of your own movie.
Yeah.
Yes, in that effect, it's like
That
that.
actually
It's
is
like
a mental
you are
disorder
in
now.
control.
I don't know if it's classified as an official mental disorder, but there are people who have what they call Truman Show syndrome, and I find that really interesting. Or I guess Matrix syndrome is another way you could put it. Uh, I I think it's kind of weird. I think I used to feel something along those lines at one point when I was going through my schizophrenic episodes, but um, there, and I'm not just being funny. I actually was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and I think it was actually a misdiagnosis because I was having PTSD symptoms as well, and I think that's actually what it was.
Mm.
But I'm not a mental health expert, so I'm not pretending to have all the answers to any of this, and it's all very complicated. Even you know, psychology is not a perfect science. There is no perfect science, and psychology in particular, as they say in the Big Bang Theory, is the I think they call it the like the retarded cousin of sciences or something. I don't remember exactly how they phrased it, but it
But
was
yeah,
something along those lines.
it could be deemed as a selfish thought,
Yeah,
But self-preservation is also a selfish thought. Back to the panic attacks, it's
yeah.
fight or flight instinct. That's why you're panicking because you're anxious about something, like stuff like that. So, uh, yeah, it would be very, very self-serving to think that you're a god, but you don't. Maybe if you don't ask or require people to treat you like a god, like you acknowledge that everyone else is their own god, so you're able to coexist with them,
I don't think I'm a god.
with harmony. It's just all about the
I
harmony with other people.
I get told all the time that I'm calling myself God by being an atheist, and I don't think I'm a god. And I think they're just I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any validity of what they're saying.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, I will.
It's like if you're doing your own thing, all of a sudden, oh, so you must be God. There's also this mentality and saying that, oh, alam mo na lahat, so ikaw na lang, oh, ikaw na lang Diyos, diba? If you know so much, then why don't you be God?
Yeah,
There's a,
I really struggle with some of these conversations we have. I blocked two people on Facebook, and I one of them is actually in the Discord listening to us talking. And if you want to join the
Mhm.
call, you're welcome to do that. I'm not. The reason I blocked this person, whose name I will leave, anonymous until they want to make themselves known, is because they were being what I thought was dishonest. And I mentioned this earlier. Basically, this person I was talking to said, "Go watch this, go read this," and obviously you didn't read it, you didn't watch it, so you're being dishonest. They called me dishonest. which is ironic because I was giving my honest thoughts and I was being as forthright as I could to explain my thoughts to them. And I guess because I disagree with you, I'm dishonest. And that, coming back around to why don't you just read this? I just wanted to kind of try to bring it back to topic, but I don't know. I get frustrated on occasion. I get a little heated sometimes in discussions, and I don't I don't have a tolerance that's very high for people that are just going to call me dishonest because I don't agree with them.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me. I don't know. I get
I
tired
think
of it.
that's what happens when you have it's already an argument. It's no longer a discussion. I've actually had sort of same experience because I used to critique and review movies. And when people would tell me that same thing, it's like, did you even really watch the film? Don't you know that this and that and that and that? It's like, this is my critique. This is my honest review. This is how I see it because my preference is actually in B grade horror, slasher flicks, and all that. Like, I'm not going to like Titanic or some other films that are popularly liked because of my taste, because of my opinion. So certain things resonate with me stronger than they do with other people. That doesn't mean my opinion is wrong, or it doesn't mean I didn't watch the film. That I'm just somebody was even surprised that I watched the whole Twilight trilogy. It's like, oh, you really went through that shit. It's like, how am I going to critique it if I don't watch it? I really have to get in it and watch it more than once. Yes, that's my penance. And yeah, later on they figured out that okay, I'm really making the effort to be as objective as I could, but at the
Right.
same time, my biases, my preferences cannot be put aside because that's who I am. That's my personality. If I like gore, if I like violence, if I like twists before the Sixth Sense, like twist endings, then that's my particular flavor, my taste.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of it reminds me of these fanatics like you're talking about, like when you were talking about Twilight. It's like, oh well, you know, if you haven't seen it, how can you possibly say
Say
you
it
don't
shit.
like it? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I can say it's shit without watching it, just because I don't like vampire movies
The
and stuff like
writer.
that. I could just say
Oh,
that.
okay.
I could just say I don't like vampire movies, and that's reason enough for me to say that it's shit. I don't need another reason. But I do like vampire movies, as it happens. What I didn't like about Twilight
Mhm.
was its very romanticized. It was very effeminate, and I'm not trying to say that like it's a like there's boy and girl. That's not really obviously accurate. But I mean, in terms of the stereotypical sort of romance, and it was just very bland. The acting wasn't very good to me, but I enjoyed parts of it, and I enjoyed it
Mhm.
enough to watch all of them. So,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of things I didn't like about it too, but I like fantasy. I'm a big fantasy buff. Harry Potter, Star Wars. Well, that's more sci-fi, but it still qualifies under fantasy, and
Mhm.
Twilight, Lord of the Rings. You name it, I probably have seen it multiple times. So I'm a big fantasy fan. I know we're talking about movies when this is an atheist call-in show, but I mean it's
No,
relevant
it's
because
it's
I mean,
about the opinions that
well,
just
yeah,
because that's why it's like you got to watch this, bro, and then I watch it and I say I didn't like it.
but it's like
Like even
this.
the ones that
So
win awards, there's some. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was just gonna say it reminds me though of the Christians who say just watch this debate or this speaker or this person. Well, I was
Hmm.
told to watch a video by I think it's James Tour or John Tour. I can't remember. He's a PhD nanotechnology scientist who was talking about the origins of life and that there's certain things that are just unanswered and this is unanswered and there's scientists have no idea how this happens and his ultimate conclusion was therefore there's a creator and we call that creator God. That was the whole thing. I
Mm.
mean the long version is obviously a lot more in depth, but
Hmm.
there's no reason to really listen to that and take it seriously because that's a logical fallacy. It's an argument from ignorance. It's saying that look at all these things science cannot explain, therefore there's a God. That's nonsense. It
Hmm.
doesn't actually demonstrate anything. It's just saying here's things we don't know. Of course, there's things we don't know. Otherwise, science wouldn't keep doing science. So,
Yeah.
and then the other aspect of this is there's, uh, so like the people that I debate with who ask me to watch the video, they're asking me to watch something that I've debunked 1,000 times before. And if I don't
Mhm.
watch it, I'm not being dishonest. If I do watch it and tell you that I did, I'm not being dishonest. There's no dishonesty in me rejecting your BS, James Tor. Thank you. There's no dishonesty in rejecting what I think is already BS because I've already seen it debunked 1,000 times. Now,
Mhm.
yes, you might be able to say that I'm not being intellectually honest because I'm not watching your particular video that you think explains it, but there's nothing I'm going to learn from a video that's going to demonstrate evidence for God. It's going to come in the form of peer-reviewed journals by scientists in the public sector who are doing actual work in the field. So if this person has evidence for God that answers questions about the origins of life, that demonstrates creation, then he can go get a frickin' Nobel Prize, and I don't have to sit here on my ass as a layman trying to debunk everything he says.
Exactly. And if you're gonna talk about particular videos or topics like that, or even books, you can find hundreds of so and so debunked, so and so answered, so and so. You can find those. You can find. That's why when we started off the show, and I wanted to make it clear that we're not intellectuals or claim to be super duper knowledgeable about these stuff,
Right.
is because all these other things are accessible to you. If you really have a question that requires a long form reply, something that's point by point, or even debates. I was able to see in the PATAS group that there was actually a debate ongoing with the last caller I think we had, and he was still regurgitating the same argument. So I was like, that would have been the perfect place for it because you can actually research, put your annotations, citations, all that stuff. Unlike something like this, which is basically a free flowing show. And as I said, like even my phone is dead. I don't switch on my phone. I have nothing on my screen. Everything I'm telling you right now is from me.
Yeah,
So
I'm
there's a proper avenue.
I'm fine with people researching stuff in the middle of a conversation. I have no problem with it. I do that sometimes with some words that this is another thing that's maybe you've seen a lot of. I don't know if you have, but there's one thing in particular that I've seen a lot of is that they use a lot of really complicated words for no reason. They use advanced
Mhm.
language to, I guess, sound smarter. I'm not trying to insult them, but that's what it feels like they're doing. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll look up the word or like Latin phrase that they used, and to a certain extent, I understand because I do the same thing when it comes to fallacies. But there's a reason I do that. But this is
Mhm.
just in regular conversation. They're like using really weird Latin phrases to describe something that's a very obvious English word. Like, why don't you just use that word? Why do you have to use this strange Latin phrase and obfuscate what we're talking about? So I have to spend the time looking up the fucking word. It's like, just, but it
Because
frustrates
they
me
want to,
because,
they want to say, "Gotcha, Ben! I gotcha, I gotcha!" With this phrase, with this word, "I got you, bro! I win the internet." That's what they want to hear. They want to win. They
yeah,
want to know that they gotcha.
yeah, I know. And this happened as well because I think somebody he said, I know English better than you. I'm not name dropping, but I said, okay, you know English better than me, but apparently you don't have reading comprehension because what you just did. Because I put up a challenge this week, and the challenge was give me any, um, give me anything that religions do that cannot be achieved by secular means or is exclusive to religion. And I was referring specifically to positive, um, real, tangible thing that religions can do that
Mhm.
cannot be achieved without it. And this person instead just listed a bunch of things religions have done, which doesn't answer the
Hmm.
challenge because I didn't ask, name me things religions have done. I said, name me things religions have done that I can't also do as an atheist. So
Mhm.
I said, you obviously have reading comprehension issues. And he says, well, I know English better than you. And then he goes, and this is funny. He goes, what's the plural of viscous? And you have 10 seconds,
What?
go. And I'm like, this is what? What does this have to do with
It's
anything?
juvenile. It's
It's
juvenile.
very juvenile. And again, I won't name any names for that, but it's just frustrating on occasion to deal with that. And I understand why they do that, and I get it. And I'm not trying to beat up on these people, which is why I'm not saying their names out loud. Deepak Chopra is the king of that, says Adam Poulsen. You are absolutely right. He is the king of deepities. I think that's where the phrase actually comes from, or at least in part, because I can't remember who came up with it. Was it Sam Harris, the phrase deepity, or was it Dan Dennett? I don't remember. But the phrase deepity is essentially something that sounds really deep and true and compelling, and is in fact neither of those things. It's just, something, it's like a bumper sticker. And Deepak Chopra is indeed
It's the woo.
the king of that.
Woo. It's all about the woo. But yeah, you brought up a point about what has religion do versus secular or atheist. There was this time that there was the super typhoon. It was Ondoy. I remember getting criticized because I posted that meme of the empty warehouse. These are all your thoughts and prayers being donated to the people who were affected by it, and it was
Sure.
an empty warehouse. And I was criticized for it because, the church does so much more than just give prayers and stuff like that. And then, little
Dennett,
did he
thank you.
know, I was actually working for a company which were all atheists. We were all in a dev company, and we actually had a lot of donations, and we came up with programs for them, but we didn't televise or advertise what we were doing. So when we had the private chat after, and he wanted to see receipts of kindness from our end, from the secular end, from the atheist end. And it was very, very odd that he was just asserting everything based on what is given physically, what is, because even, I don't know why they have to equate kindness with material things when, first of all, religion preaches that material wealth is nothing if not in comparison to spiritual wealth. So yeah, I just had to correct them and say that we may not have a God, but it doesn't mean that we don't have hearts or compassion or understanding.
Yeah, and there's this aspect of it too, which is lying with statistics, and that's something I mentioned as well in this conversation, because it would be brought up often. Well, religion does more of this, religion does more of that. Like, well, yeah, but religions have been around for a lot longer than secular groups. Religions have had a privileged preferential status in societies. So, of course, there's more
Mhm.
religions doing stuff, but to deny that atheists or secular groups are doing it is to be completely disingenuous. And to
Yeah.
deny that it's possible for us to also do these things is also bullshit. So we do have a caller on the line,
Oh, cool.
which I would like to pull in. I think we can try see if he has. It says that he hasn't. He might be having audio issues, but we'll try anyway. This is Denver from Mandaluyong, Philippines. Denver, are you here?
Hello.
How you doing, Denver?
Hi, good
Hey,
evening.
Denver. Good
Yeah.
What can we do for
evening.
you?
Hi, good evening. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you got for us today?
Okay, so it's just in line with the topic. So, as far as I can understand the topic, it's about citing out like links or videos and materials, but the one that has actually posted is not explaining it, and I see it a lot in forums. So, on that kind of attitude, how will we be able to have information across? Given I myself, when I'm given videos, I'm not watching it. So I'm
Mhm.
waiting for the one that I'm discussing with to explain it. So what is the best approach so that we'll be able to get the one that posted that reference to explain it? Because I'm really annoyed with people saying, just read it, just read it, just read it, just watch it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we're not
Okay.
alone in feeling that.
Yeah. Well, when I share particular links, whether it's religion or music or I put my own header, my own like, oh, this is the point. So parang the link is there, if you want to learn more of why I came up with that line or that statement prior to the link, parang in Tagalog, binibigyan mo siya ng maiksi na explanation para mapapunta ka sa link. Because you want people to go to that link if that's what you're really trying to share, diba? So you gotta put a worm in the hook. You gotta put like, oh, you want to hear how this became this and that is this? Well, here's the link. Check out paragraph 2 of page something and then post the link. Para di ba klaro? So everyone gets it. It becomes more beneficial rather than just throwing it out there. But I'm glad nga that Denver does agree with us na it's malabo na there's a link all of a sudden and you
Yeah.
expect people to read it. There's so many things happening, especially online. There's so little time that a person can dedicate. And malay mo, it could be a Rick Rolled video for all you care. It could be a short link, and then when you click it, never gonna give you up. Never gonna, you could be getting trolled.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Good thing that you have pointed that out, and also it can be used for scams, phishing. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to
yeah.
be careful with that.
mhm, yeah. One thing no offense with you guys being atheists, but I have been
Mhm.
observing on atheist groups for a while now, and I can see that lots of people in atheist groups are doing that. They're sharing random memes in the discussion, like, "Hello, this is
Mhm.
my answer," and for those people who do that, um, I really can't put it into words. Paano siya maayos?
Ah, here, Denver. I think I have the answer for that. When it comes to memes, sometimes kasi people get frustrated, diba? So when they get frustrated, imbes na mag-reply, they will ridicule na lang. So they'll just put a meme, a funny meme, or Jesus with fangs and horns. Para it's also making the conversation lighter. Like they don't think it's a serious topic, so they'll just post a meme. They'll
Yeah.
sometimes completely unrelated to the topic because that's also why I don't participate in any of. I'm not in PATAS. I'm not in Pinoy Atheist. I stopped in what you call Atheist Republic and all that because yun nga naging paulit-ulit na eh. I'd rather have discussions like this with the person one on one and a friendly discussion rather than having to argue and then a week later or 2 weeks later that same topic is going to be posted by another stranger and you're just going to go through the cycle again and it can become frustrating because it doesn't open any doors, it doesn't bring anything new to the table. So could be Denver, there are three possibilities. It could be uh, they just really don't know what to say, so meme. They could
Yeah.
be assholes who think they're Facebook comedians, and the third is frustrated people who just want to hear something better, like present something better, And
I
how do
think
we derail a conversation?
oh, go ahead.
Dump a lot of memes, and you'll be able to derail a conversation.
Yeah, I think a lot of these memes posted, which some of them are funny, I agree, but it can be
Mhm.
viewed a lot from the religious side as sort of gaslighting. And I'm not necessarily opposed to it. Gaslighting can actually be very useful in terms of getting a conversation started, but it's not as productive as actually addressing their beliefs head on and talking to them one on one. But I don't think that's the point necessarily of the posts or the memes. Um, I kind of want to go back a little bit to your question originally, which was where to find sources for atheists, I think it was. And I'm curious, uh, are you aware of sources like talkorigins.org, or have you read certain books by certain authors like The God Delusion, or just as an example, like is that what you're asking for? Because I can definitely give you sources. I'm not sure if we are you still here, Denver? He might have muted himself. No,
Yeah, but
anyway.
what we
Um,
can probably do in response to Denver after this, well, maybe now we can just put links after when the podcast is done. Maybe we can put some there that we discussed, and here's a list of sources. I personally prefer audiobooks. I love cooking and listening to audiobooks, or even like Sam Harris Waking Up podcast. He changed the name to something else now. And then you have well, a lot of atheists might hate me for this. Star Talk, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's got some stuff in there.
I
But
like
yeah, audiobooks are the best, dude. Mm-hmm.
I like talkorigins.org for a source if you're looking for a response to essentially every creationist claim that's ever been espoused. These are scientists that are posting responses to these claims. A lot of them are like, Noah's flood and, the origins of life, responses to abiogenesis and the claims of that kind of thing. So there's actually really good sources for that on there. But as far as atheist sources, they're really, I wouldn't say there are any really good atheist sources. They're good sources that are atheistic, but an atheist itself is just someone who doesn't believe in a god. So you have to dig a little deeper.
And
than
if
that.
it's for entertainment value, who's the guy on YouTube? Rational, the guy with long hair. He looks like a
Rationality
Norse
Rules.
Viking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rationality Rules.
I actually just talked to him the other day.
Well, Thunderfoot. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a cool dude. He's pretty funny, man.
I reached out to him
So
because
that's mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, go.
Oh,
go.
well,
Sorry.
he has this
Go.
game. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's not released yet, but he has a game. Stephen Woodford. Yep, he has a game called Debunked, and it looks really cool. And I asked him because I wanted to put it on the show because you had mentioned this. I wanted to put the graphics of the fallacies whenever we mentioned fallacies. Flash the graphic of that card on the screen. I thought that would be a really cool thing to do. And he said absolutely. I'll send you over. He said he's going to compile a copy of the graphics and send it to me at some point. So that's really cool. Yeah, he's a really nice guy from every interaction I've had with him before. And I love his videos, but they're not as entertaining as some other atheist videos out there. But he definitely has a lot of a very direct, rational approach to things, which I can appreciate.
Mm-hmm. And it's well produced because that's another thing that you'll find 1,000,001 videos. So you also have a Dark Matter. Dark Matter's cartoons are pretty funny.
Those are hilarious.
And then Thunderfoot does. He just doesn't do atheism. He does other stuff. So
I like
it's a
Thunderfoot,
mix and match.
But the thing I don't like about Thunderfoot is that sometimes it'll take like 10 minutes of his video before he actually talks about the topic of the video because he's like rehashing
he has to
things.
Monetize.
I know. And I'm really not trying to beat up on Thunder because I do like his videos and his content is actually interesting. But he'll talk about 20 things at once and in like a 30-minute video, which I feel like it loses a good portion of his audience when he does that. But he does make really good videos like on the Kickstarter campaigns that are obviously trying to sell you snake oil.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a coronavirus. A coronavirus one was pretty good.
That was
That's one of his recent ones. Another YouTube channel I do like is Minute Physics. That's cool because it's bite size. It won't take a lot of your time from social media because they explain the singularity, the Big Bang, and the history and all that, all in a minute. That's why Minute Physics. It's pretty cool. So yeah, those are entertaining, atheistic. I won't say atheist. Atheistic leading shows that you can watch if you want to be entertained and learn. So that's it.
Yeah, I love Minute Physics too.
Can't think of anything else.
I think Minute Physics a while back, I don't know if it's still up on their channel, but they did a video on like a mathematical proof for God, and they got totally obliterated in the chat or in the comment section because people were just like, you can't prove God mathematically. And I don't know if that was Minute Physics. It might have been another popular channel like that, but I think it was Minute Physics, and it was just really funny.
The Big Bang Theory and Singularity ones were quite entertaining because those are the ones that you can refer to friends who say, "Oh, this is the Big Bang and all that." It's like, wait, here, watch this video. Take 1 fucking minute off your time from trolling and just watch it, and then let me know. Because yeah, it's a bite-sized video, which is easy to digest. 1 minute isn't like reading an entire article or an entire blog or a scientific paper on it. It helps. It helps.
Sure. It has been an hour and 10 minutes into the show, and we haven't had really any theist callers
Oh
today. I
no, we
wonder
lost Ben's audio.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for reminding me.
There you
I
go.
think it's been an hour and 10 minutes, and we haven't had any theist callers on the line. I really want to get some. So if you guys
Because
are
I
a
feel
theist,
they
if you're
want to
watching,
debate.
click here. Well, don't click here, but like go to that link, bit.ly/PATAS call, and give us a call because we do want to hear from you. But yeah, I think a lot of the theists do want a formal debate. They think that we're unfair, which is obviously not true because we let Arvin talk for like an hour. So, so I don't think we could be classified as unfair, and I don't want to paint everybody into a corner when we get on a call. I like to actually
Yeah.
have a discussion. So if you are a theist
Yeah,
and you are
it
watching,
was-
we do welcome you.
Yeah, you don't have to be afraid of us, dude. We're not here to debate, you guys. Normally, it's the callers. I had noticed last week it's the debaters who wanted to, the callers who wanted to debate us. So we're not really that. We're nice people.
Well, sometimes, but you could ask us general.
Yeah.
You can ask us general questions about why we do or don't believe certain things. You can call in and just tell us what you believe and why, and it doesn't have to be a formal, structured argument like last week. It can be just a conversation. We're totally fine with that because there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as actually a formal debate, I would happily do a formal debate, but not with some of the people who asked me. So.
Mhm.
I get to pick who I debate.
What I think the Patas podcast can do is do a monthly special because it's like every last weekend of the month, every last podcast of the month could be reserved for an organized debate with a moderator. And if we could put like a timer on the upper right or left hand side so people can really follow that format, it's going to be a bitch to structure. But I think that's something good that can be done. It's a special. It's not particularly part of the show, but it's a special like every month or every 2 months.
Yeah, there's
What do you think?
as far as debating goes, there's a group that already does it pretty well. I can't remember exactly what they're called. I think it's like called like Modern Debate or something like that. It's on YouTube. Matt Dillahunty's been on there a couple times.
Are they local?
They are not.
Oh,
local.
they're not local.
No, but I think we could take a page from how they do it, which is just having the two people who are going to debate on the call, and having the moderator be in control of being able to mute them or whatever, which almost never happens when I watch these debates. It's very rare because as long as they agree and they're civil to each other, they just let them talk. And usually you'll start off with like a 10-minute opener from each person, and then the moderator will move it on to a rebuttal phase, and then they'll just have a back and forth discussion, or they'll just skip a rebuttal and go straight to discussion, which is more like a caller type thing. So there's different ways you can structure it, but it's not really difficult. It's more so finding someone to debate because like there's a couple people who asked me to debate already from last week, and I won't do it. So I'm not interested in those particular individuals.
Yeah, there are people who you don't agree with directly, but you respect because of the way they respect you. Respect begets respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do want to debate, just ask nicely. You don't have to be a tyrant.
PATAS helped me last year to debate with Thomas Ross, and I found him to be a really nice guy. We disagreed profoundly on nearly everything, and he was super friendly. We got along just fine, and the debate was really cordial. We didn't talk over each other. We weren't rude to each other. And afterwards, we went out and had dinner together and continued our little back and forth debate. And it got a little heated, but it wasn't, we didn't hate each other. We shook hands and went on our merry. Of course, now, if we did that, we wouldn't ever shake hands because we wouldn't want to catch COVID. But, at the time, it wasn't a problem. So, yeah. It almost seems like I can't remember a time when coronavirus wasn't a problem. Because it's been ongoing for so long now. But
yeah, man, that's what I'm thinking triggered my anxiety also, like being cooped up. And I think it is affecting people. Well, this podcast came to be because of COVID also, because we're going to have to make adjustments. Change isn't coming. Change is really here. So it's up to us to adjust to it. So I think an online video debate would be beneficial as long as it was structured properly. In the meantime, we're going to keep doing this and trying to have fun
Right.
and talk about the mundane, things that
I don't even
atheists
mind it
go
if it's
through
just you and
all
me
the
talking.
time.
I enjoy that. Even if it's just you and me talking to each other, because I think you have a really good perspective on things, and I appreciate that perspective. And I think it's worthy
Thank
for
you,
people to
Dan.
listen to. And apparently, people like listening to it. We got 13 people watching. I think we were up to 25 at one point so far during the stream. So that's pretty cool for a stream that's only 3 weeks old. And
Yeah,
of course,
baby steps.
as a reminder, if you are not able to get into the show today or you simply don't want to, you can email us at live@patasinc.org. That goes to myself and some of the administrators in the group as well. So we will read your email and you can, email us about whatever you want and we will read it. And I'll try to read all emails that come in. And maybe we'll even have some topics for discussion as a result of those emails. So, um,
Mhm.
but as far as live call-ins, you can, of course, go to bit.ly/PATAS to join us on the live discussion here. And it's very easy. You just go on the Discord, and that's it. Get screened, and we will talk to you. So, so as far as that goes, we are still live for about another 45 minutes. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, what do you think we should talk about next? Do you have anything on your mind in particular that we'd like to move to? Because I'm kind of running dry here.
Well, well, it's I work in the liquor business. I work in the local craft industry, and what's a hot topic now is the whole liquor ban lifting. And I had someone troll my page with a odd question though, because he was stating that the liquor ban shouldn't be lifted because it brings out all these immoral stuff that people do, all these horrible things. And I pointed it out to him that you're forgetting the positives also. And then when I checked his profile, he's a super duper 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 religious guy. So that he says that basically the liquor ban is evil, it's immoral, and then I replied to him, but Jesus turned water to wine. And then he blocked me. So my concern now, because I'm in the
That's
alcohol business
fabulous.
and we're suffering because the craft brewing and distilling, it's not as famous as San Miguel here in the Philippines. So we're kind of looked down on as, like they don't know what we are. They don't know who we are. They don't know we have bars, restaurants with employees, wait staff, janitors, everyone, warehouse people. We're all really affected by this, and it really sucks to be in this situation. Now, to be able to tell me that our business, my livelihood, that's been on hold for more than 2 months, is immoral, really, really, really ticked me off in some way.
Oh, I can
Now, I
understand that.
know there are some religious people who will say that alcohol is, yeah, the devil. Everything is the devil.
Yeah,
So
everything is the devil with them. Um, it,
yeah,
it's like
so
the devil isn't this extant thing. He's just everything they don't like. It's just it's really weird.
hmm,
Um, but I mean, I think to them the devil is actually a being as well. Some of them may not think so, but the way they describe it is like, oh well, that's the devil. Like, no, it may be perhaps
hmm,
of the devil. It may be a product of the devil in your mind. But as far as liquor bans go, I don't know why there were liquor bans to begin with. Everybody's going to be stuck in their fucking homes. I want to be able to get drunk. I don't want to be thinking about reality while I'm
hmm.
stuck in my house. You know, that might be a little bit of an oversimplification, but I think it applies because you're going to be bored, stuck inside. Why not be able to get drunk? That seems silly to me. I
Hmm.
understand that it's not an essential. It's not something we need per se, so
Hmm.
I can understand if some liquor companies wanted to shut down, but I don't see any justification for completely stopping the flow of liquor because reasons. There's really no. If anything, um, I think it just makes things worse to have people who are already struggling with alcoholism or something akin who cannot have access to alcohol are going to be going through detox
That's yeah.
because they don't have access to rehabilitation.
Yeah, it builds tension, and at the same time, it's noticeable because, well, we're in the industry. We keep monitoring everyone that's getting caught trying to move products, trying to bring bottles somewhere. Even riders are getting pulled over. Lala moves, and they're getting they're fined. Some of them have gotten their vehicles impounded, but all they're doing is making deliveries. So they're also like victims in a way,
Right.
because all right, when it comes to the whole alcohol thing, I agree that it's something to do at home. It eases the tension.
Sure.
But I also understand where the government was coming from to begin with, which is the tambay drinking. It's a bunch of guys drinking by the streets and all that. More often than not, it's because in Tagalog may nagpapainom. There's someone who sponsors the drinks and all that. But if alcohol is so scarce, you're not going to want to share with your friends. You're going to want to enjoy it at home to ease the tension, pass the time. And for some people, it helps them go to sleep. But
Yeah.
yeah, is
And
is alcohol immoral?
no. And to clarify, and to clarify previously, I wasn't like advocating for the people who have alcoholism or suffering from alcohol problems. What I was kind of getting at with that was that there are people who currently, because of the situation, it's more dangerous for them to go to rehabilitation. And for people who quit alcohol very
Mhm.
suddenly, who are addicts, there's a lot of dangerous physiological symptoms that could kill them. So I think they should have access to alcohol, even if it's limited access to alcohol, because they're more susceptible to very serious problems, and going to rehabilitation right now is probably not the best idea for them,
Mhm.
if that's something they were ever going to do anyway. But it's their body,
Mhm.
and if they want to put alcohol in it, they should be allowed to do that. I don't see what the justification is for shutting that down, because I'm pretty sure, although I'm not an expert, that my e-cigarettes or vape or regular tobacco cigarettes are non-essential things too, but they certainly haven't stopped the sale of those things. So,
Yeah.
um, and I don't get
Exactly.
it. But somebody asked if we have a YouTube channel where this stream will be able to be rewatched. It's actually being streamed live to the YouTube channel as well, I think. If not, it's also on Twitch. But we all are recording the show, and all of our episodes do get uploaded to YouTube. You can go to bit.ly/PATASYT to enjoy our shows in full as a rewatch, or you can watch them right here on the Facebook page, because all the videos are saved there as well. And don't forget, potasinc.org has the archives, the show archives, as well as the blog, and a way to donate. So thank you so much for all of you for watching, and I hope you do have that opportunity to visit our YouTube channel at some point and subscribe. So anyway, a little
Mhm.
off-topic plug. So per the lockdowns, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. They are reopening in some places, and I
Mhm.
think Cainta was one of them that my wife and I were talking about, because we're planning on moving there. Um, they are sort of, no, they're not completely reopening, but they're reopening slightly. They're opening some businesses that are non-essential,
Mhm.
and
The GCQ. Yeah.
yes, and I find it to be absolutely insane. And the reason I say that is because I think it's obvious to anyone who can count that we haven't done nearly enough testing in the country, and we
Yeah.
don't really have any contact tracing. So we don't know the severity of the disease in many places. And so, why are we reopening certain areas that are potentially already susceptible to very serious harm from reopening if we don't have any contact tracing or anything like that? So, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but uh, it's scary, and it frustrates
Hmm.
me that
Yeah.
sacrifice yourself
Have
the
you
name of
been
the
out of the
economy.
house?
Have I been out of the
Have
house?
you been out? Have you?
I've been shopping for groceries. That's about it.
Okay. What's your observation on people's behaviors?
Um,
Because my experiences have not been good. I've been in lines in drugstores and grocery stores, and people aren't wearing masks. Well,
yeah,
luckily in our area, you can't go in a place without your quarantine pass. But
I
it's
have
a
seen people
handful.
not
It's
wearing
a
masks. I've
handful.
seen people wearing masks below the nose, where it's
Yeah.
on their face but it's below their nose, which is absolutely stupid. If you're doing that, you're not actually preventing any disease from getting into you or out of you because you're breathing through your nose, unless you're, I guess, from, I don't know, Florida, and mouth breathers. So
Yep.
the way I view it is there's a lot of people out there not wearing masks or wearing them incorrectly. Some of them are wearing masks that are not really filtering anything, or there's one
Mm-hmm.
guy I saw one time and he actually got stopped by a guard. He was wearing the mask on his face, but he pulled it down to drink coffee, and he left it down
Mm-hmm.
while he was standing there. And then he proceeds to start coughing without covering his mouth with a mask or his hands. And the guards came and pulled him aside and told him to go home. So, um, I
See,
I'm
it's
amazed.
putting other people at risk. That's the problem. It's that
Yeah.
as we were talking about, that we're all gods in our worlds. We're all responsible, and it brings back that point of how we can be selfish.
Hmm.
Is that some people will not wear the masks because reasons, but they always disregard the fact that you could be affecting a lot of people.
Yeah.
You could
There's
be harming people without even knowing it.
there was a video I posted on the PATAS group, which was this woman who was basically arguing that wearing a mask is more dangerous because you're breathing in your CO2 over and over again. And then at the end of the video, after like 20 minutes of ranting and raving like an idiot, by the way, she was inside of a store doing all this, and so the police were called on her and everything. And she, at the end of the video, said, you know, apparently the virus isn't even filtered out by most masks, and yet she thinks CO2 molecules are. She thinks that it's going
Oh
to
man.
block the flow of CO2 and oxygen in and out of her mask, but the virus can't get through. It's like the level of stupidity on some of these people is just stunning. Um,
Yeah. I think it
and
would be accredited to scientific illiteracy,
yeah, that's certainly uh,
how,
how I would
learning how
phrase it.
things work.
Um,
Because yeah, people should actually, like, we advocate science, we advocate learning
oh
and
yeah.
things like that. Because when you understand how the world works or how particular things work, I think people will make better decisions.
Mhm.
Less rants that will be made fun of if it's well thought of. If you actually sat down and thought about it before posting anything or before
And I will
making a
say,
video.
even though those videos are funny to me, I do think they can be helpful to the people who um, are at first finding this to be a funny thing and then realize that maybe we should be speaking out more about this because apparently there are just too many ignorant people out there like this who think they're being a
Mm,
hero by not wearing a mask, who think that their rights are being infringed upon when a company demands them to wear a mask, which, by the way, that same company also demands you to wear a shirt and shoes, and you don't fucking complain about that. So,
mhm.
um, no shirt, no shoes, no service. Now it's also no mask, but that's a problem. So
Yeah.
I don't get
A
it.
friend actually, you brought up companies. A friend actually, they run a warehouse. This happened earlier today as well.
Mhm.
One of their employees, so they're all locked up in the warehouse. Some of them stay over there. One of their employees has been going out and actually like hanging out in tindahans and, according to them, gambling. That's why it's like, how do we approach this? Because that person is going to come back to the warehouse who could potentially be infected and, infect the what do you call that, the housing that they have in their warehouse, affect the other employees, which will later on carry over to the products. So he was asking for advice. What should I do with this particular employee? He won't listen to us. Do we get rid of him? And well, I suggested that they do mass testing just to get it out of the way. But at the same
Mhm.
time, it's still work. It's still an office. It's still, the warehouse is still part of the office. It's an
Yeah.
extension of it. So rules must be followed. It
Right.
sounds heartless because I'm sure the guy is bored. The guy probably has more money than usual because he's not spending on the usual expenditures like transportation or going to malls or doing whatever he does with his money. So he's killing time going out every so often, but he's gonna affect everyone else. So how, it's like when he asked me, how do I go about this? Do I get rid of the guy? It would be heartless to fire someone now. So many people are getting jobless nowadays. A lot of people, like in my case, we haven't worked in 2+ months. It's killing us, and we know
Yeah.
the financial repercussions. When things go back to quote unquote normal, we're gonna have a shitload of bills.
Yeah, I'm actually being evicted from my condo as we speak because I lost my employment about 3 months ago, and I've been struggling to make ends meet, running out of savings, and haven't been able to pay my rent here. And I've refused to pay my rent
Hmm.
because I can't afford to do it. And we were actually planning on moving out before the lockdown started. And
Okay.
when the lockdown came up, we were essentially forced to stay here. We couldn't go anywhere. It was a very strict lockdown. It still is. And it's
Hmm.
very difficult because one thing, I don't want to move until it's actually safe to do so. And the other
Yeah.
aspect of it is I certainly don't want to pay my rent because if I do, I'm not going to have money for food or to move out. So it's it's really tough right now, and everybody is
Hmm.
having issues. I mean, well, not every single person, but a very large majority of society is struggling right now, and it's
Yeah. Everyone's dealing with it. Everyone has to deal with this.
yeah. The heartlessness of a landlord, though, who will not negotiate with you on your rent when you tell them you can't pay because you lost your job because of the coronavirus or something like that. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people being bullied by landlords and other type of people like that who are in control of certain assets. And I'm not buying it. I'm not gonna be bullied out of my condo until I feel that it's safe to do so, and I won't be bullied into paying rent if I can't afford it. I'm going to continue to stay here until the government or the health experts say that it's safe to go. So, um,
Yeah.
because moving requires
It's
a lot of people involved. There's the
yeah.
movers come, I got to interact with
Moving
cab
sucks.
drivers. It does, and it's expensive. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't mind leaving the condo. That's obviously not the point. The point is that I have trouble with the idea of having a bunch of movers who may possibly have the virus coming in and touching all my shit, and then going
Yeah.
and interacting with cab drivers because we have to take cabs back and forth, and having to go and interact with the admin office and all. It's not safe to do any of this right now, and it may not be for a very
Yeah.
long time. So I don't know what to do. There's not a lot of help coming from the US government. There's not a lot of help coming from the Philippine government. So what can we do? Not much. There's really not
Mm.
much we can do. Suffer through it, I guess. So,
This
and I'm
podcast
a
should
high
be
risk
twice a
person.
week.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe
how
we could do
come?
that.
How, yeah, just do more of the podcasting. Maybe we
Yeah.
can monetize.
Maybe we can. I mean, I have my gaming stream, which gets monetization. I make like 1,000 pesos per day doing that, but it's not enough to pay the rent here and the food and everything else. So um, it's just not. But I try.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know. I feel like we got way off on a tangent, but um, you
Yeah.
know, hey, it's a
Well,
free
it
form
is
show, and that's what we do.
exactly. All right. Can I
So
take a 2 minute break? I've been drinking
absolutely,
so much liquids. I gotta drain the main vein.
yes, let's do
I
that.
will be right back.
I will play a video while we're gone.
Give someone a fish and they'll eat that day. Teach them how to catch a fish and they'll never go hungry. Proverbs like this remind us how learning skills helps to move us towards self-reliance. This is never more true than with critical thinking. Memorize the solution to a problem and you may master that particular problem. Improve your critical thinking and you'll give yourself the tools to create your own effective solutions to a multitude of unfamiliar problems. Critical thinking refers to a diverse range of intellectual skills and activities concerned with evaluating information as well as our own thought in a disciplined way. When we're willing and able to examine our own capability as thinkers, acknowledging problems and weaknesses, this can help us refine our thought processes so that we learn to think and assess information in a more comprehensive way that increases our ability to identify and reject false ideas and ideologies. Critical thinking isn't just thinking a lot. A person may spend a great deal of intellectual energy defending a flawed position or pursuing a question that actually needs reformulating before progress can begin. If they never examine possible flaws and biases behind their approach, that's not thinking critically. We must want to be better at thinking, to pinpoint and minimize any biasing influence on our thought from culture and upbringing, to seek out and be guided by knowledge and evidence that fits with reality, even if it refutes our cherished beliefs. Indeed, when we think critically, beliefs tend not to be cherished, but held on the understanding that if they're shown to be unfounded, a change of position is the most appropriate response. Critical thinkers cultivate an attitude of curiosity and eagerness to widen their perspective and broaden their knowledge, and they're willing to do the work required to keep themselves properly informed about a subject. They recognize that explanations must actually explain and be testable to be worthy of serious consideration, and that legitimate theories clearly define the circumstances in which they'll concede defeat. Critical thinking embraces skepticism. Skepticism doesn't mean an indiscriminate rejection of ideas, as some mistakenly believe. It refers to doubting and suspending our judgment about claims with which we're presented, so that we don't simply accept claims which might be unjustified, but first take the time to understand them, examining the reasoning and possible assumptions and biases behind them. Reasoning behind factual claims should be based in sound, consistent logic, not on emotions and social pressure, because the truth value of factual claims isn't determined by the emotion that accompanies them, or the fact that they may be believed by certain social groups. Sometimes people try to persuade us that reason has no value, but that's an untenable position. Arguing against reason is cutting off the branch on which you sit, using the very thing you're dismissing in order to construct a case against it. Reason has an intrinsic role in the decisions and judgments we make as we negotiate our way through life, whether they be momentous or trivial. If a particular line of reasoning is flawed, what will increase our understanding? Dismissing the value of reason or looking honestly at the flaws? A lack of respect for reason or evidence, or any number of obstructive character traits, will sabotage one's capacity for critical thought. One of the biggest barriers to critical thinking is an unwillingness to see complex issues in anything other than black and white terms. If one sees only two options when more exist, this constitutes a false dichotomy. Consciousness is often presented as something that's either an eternal immaterial entity or reducible and identical to brain states, when in fact there are various other positions. Many divide people into those who accept evolution and those who believe in specific gods, when these categories are not mutually exclusive. If we think in false dichotomies, we'll tend to draw false conclusions. For example, by judging that if option A is false, option B must be true. We may also misrepresent others by wrongly assuming that if they don't hold attitude X, they must hold attitude Y. Black and white thinking often reflects an underlying reluctance or refusal to deal with the uncertainty that results from complexity and an absence of definite answers. But leaping to flawed conclusions because you can't tolerate the ambiguity of not knowing is not about truth or curiosity, but comfort. The critical thinker can handle uncertainty, preferring to be aware of their own areas of ignorance, and they can wait for valid evidence and evidence-based answers. Critical thinking provides each of us with the keys for unlocking our own intellectual independence, leaving us willing and able to explore and solve problems for ourselves. It moves us away from rash conclusions, mystification, and a reluctance to question received wisdom, authority, and tradition. It moves us towards intellectual discipline, the clear expression of ideas, and the acceptance of personal responsibility for our own thinking. Communities in which individuals are eager to acquire and apply the best knowledge and reason in all fields, and willing to acknowledge and correct flaws in their own thinking, are better equipped to create more profoundly effective solutions to the challenges we face in living and living together. When we teach and encourage critical thinking, we empower individual lives and invest in our collective future.
Hello, everyone. We're back. I hope you enjoyed that little short video. So it was about critical thinking, and that's something I think a lot of people don't fully understand is what is critical thinking, because they think it's just, a buzzword, and it's really not. There's actually a way to engage in critical thinking that is very effective in conversations. And it has to do with being able to um, think logically about a position and address it from both sides. Because if you can't do that, then you're not really being honest. And I think that it's important to be able to look at an argument from both the side of what if it's true and what if it's false. And being able to address that just makes you better at understanding things overall. But I don't know. That was kind of what the video was getting on about. So.
Yeah. So okay, we were before the video, the break. We were talking about Corona, and then the
Yes.
situation we find ourselves in, and then critical thinking. Did it reach you that article that they wanted to open up churches again to the public?
I think
Did
I
that
did
reach
see
you?
that. I think I did see that. Yeah. Or I
Yeah,
don't know if I saw the one
that's
you're
a good
talking about,
example.
but I did see one
Hmm.
about in the U.S. in particular. But was that also here in the Philippines? They're doing that too.
Yeah, yeah. They actually it lasted maybe a day because then people went against it right after. But that's why it's like
Good.
we get it. You want to be able to go to your place of worship, but the problem is it's the interaction with people. Like it's not bad if you want to go alone. It's kind of like riding a motorbike. If you're alone on a motorbike, you don't have any points of contact with other
Right.
people. You're on your bike alone. You're in a full jacket, gloves, mask, helmet, everything. You're kind of safe in that way. If church was only run like a motorbike, then it would be cool. But the problem is that's why you have hundreds and hundreds of people in the same place. And some air conditioned places, you're all breathing the same air. So when it came to critical thinking, I don't think they were using it. They weren't weighing the pros and cons quite well when they suggested that
I
happen.
I find it really odd that
Hmm.
Christians in particular feel the need to go to church in opposition to health experts' advice. Because if God can't come to you in your house and be there with you, then he's not really everywhere, is he? People think God is everywhere, but he's not able
Mhm.
to come to your house. He has to go. You have to go to church to be with God. It's like no.
Yeah.
You could worship in your own home. You don't need to be in church, and you can watch there's live streams. Preachers are doing live streams. Watch the live streams.
Yeah.
Why do you need to actually be there? And I'm not opposed to people who want to do that. If you want to watch the live streams, go right ahead. I think you're still engaged in nonsense, but feel free. But
Yeah, I
stay
have I have some
home.
friends on my they're on my what you call this? They're on my news feed and they share it. I think it's religiously 7 a.m. on the dot. They're always sharing it on the dot. And it's cool because I know the guy, I know his kids and all that. I haven't blocked him, obviously,
Mhm.
because I'm seeing it. Like, 'cause, he's a nice person and he knows about my behavior or my jokes about religion. We never bump heads. We never go against each other, so we're clear in that aspect.
Right.
In fact, he even ha-had my post about churches opening because it's really putting yourself and everyone at risk. Like I understand that it's a ritual, it's a habit, but unfortunately it's a habit that has to be broken for the time being as that's
Yeah, we need
reality.
to we need to have a new normal. That's what it is. And
Mhm.
a lot of people are resisting it, and I understand their resistance. I get it. It's difficult for a lot of people to accept that we can't go out, we can't go to nice dinners anymore, we can't go to churches, we can't go to sports events. Of course, I never really liked sports events, but we can't go to concerts, we can't go to malls. I understand it's really
Mm.
hard to deal with that, and it's very emotional for a lot of people, and I can respect that. But on the other hand, the health experts everywhere are telling you you're going to kill people or you're going to die if you do this. And we have to listen to that, no matter how much it hurts. It's just the reality of
Mhm.
the situation we're in. And if you can't accept that, then we have a bigger issue at hand than whether or not we can even begin to discuss rationality with some of these people, because I don't think they're actually paying
Yeah.
close enough attention. So,
Mhm.
um, if their mindset is such that they're just going to dismiss science and go to church anyway, I think they're too far gone, and natural selection is going to have to deal with it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I don't like. I'm not saying that lightly either. I'm not trying to be funny about that. It's natural selection is going to do what it does because that's just the situation right now. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and we're
Regardless
gonna
of what you think or what you believe, it's gonna
yeah
manifest itself depending on our behaviors.
we're going to see the dumbest people incapable of listening to science and reason, who are at the highest risk and who are putting themselves at further risk. Those are going to be the ones who go first, and
Hmm.
that's what we've been seeing a lot of that. And I'm not saying oh yay or anything like that. It sucks. I'm not
Hmm.
um,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of anybody dying, even if I vehemently
Suffering.
disagree with them. Yeah, suffering and dying. It's
Yeah.
horrible out there. So, um, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I feel like I'm going way
So,
too far, but
no, it's not like we're cursing people, because
no.
at the end of the day, the question is why insert why God, why did this happen to me? And then it's because of your movement, your actions. They
Hmm.
will have a reaction. So that's why it's cool to stay safe at home, watch the podcast, participate, because that's also something that kills the time. And some audience members might be feeling anxious, might be feeling lonely. Hey, that's why we're here, diba? And don't drown yourself in Facebook comment sections or forums, because sometimes that could also affect, your joy, your happiness. Just gotta be steady.
Oh, I love doing that.
You know.
Some people go, "Oh my gosh, why do you feed the trolls?" And I'm like, "Because the trolls are the most fun to
Mhm.
feed. I like when they come back." But
Yeah,
maybe that's just
actually.
me. I like those fun discussions that are just, never going to really reach a point of agreement, but I enjoy the debate back
Mhm.
and forth and the jousting. It's funny sometimes and it's entertaining for me. But I can
Mhm.
understand that for some people that might stress them out even further. So I don't recommend that as a strategy for everyone. Um,
Yeah,
it's just
because
whatever helps you. Yeah.
if you're on the losing end of the debates, or when people start mocking you for putting up bad logic or a bad fucking premise, you're not going to be able to sleep well at night. And that's the last thing you want, is add problems to what's already a big problem.
That something like that happened to me. We actually had I guess a logician, a grad student, come in and was arguing with me about a post that I had made. I don't know if you saw it, but the post was about, um, give me any valid logical argument, valid and sound, to
Mm,
demonstrate the existence of
yeah, yeah,
God. And the
yeah, I saw
argument
that.
that they proposed was, well, that's trivial to do because the Gödel's ontological argument, blah, 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 it's all valid. And I said, okay, even if it's validly structured, it's not sound in terms of actually applying to reality. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. Now you're moving the goalposts and all this other stuff, and logical fallacies don't matter because, we're talking about modal logic and all this stuff. And I said, uh, okay, look, my question was specifically existence of a God, which
Hmm.
implies something in reality. So, yes, you can come up with really clever logical arguments that might be validly structured, which is harkening back to what I said earlier. But unless you can demonstrate it as an actual thing in reality, then that thing hasn't been shown
Hmm.
to exist, and that's what I care about. I care if it's believable in reality, if it's something that can be believed. Um, so,
Hmm.
yeah, that was a really long debate, and at the end of it, we ended up coming to an agreement, even though it was like a 45-page discussion back and
Hmm.
forth and insulting each
Yeah, I did
other.
catch. I caught some of that. And also, there was a comment there about, because last week we brought up the whole James Randi thing.
Right. That's kind of where I was
So, and
going
then
with it
your
this week.
post had the,
Yeah.
okay, that's why that's pretty cool too. And that
Yeah.
people actually acknowledged it, that it was the James Randi type
Hmm.
approach to getting a discussion open.
And some people think that I should have
So-
paid them when they didn't actually fulfill the challenge. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the weird part. It has to fit the criteria.
Well,
So maybe there should be a checklist.
I'm sure there's some people that think that James Randi should have paid them too, but they're wrong. So unless you fulfilled the challenge, my criteria was actually very straightforward. I don't think that I was being dishonest or disingenuous. I ended up donating 5,000 peso to the Doctors Without Borders Foundation, which is my favorite charity. So I didn't do anything dishonest. I just knew that there, at least as far as I know, is not a good answer to that question. And I find it completely disingenuous for some people to say, oh, well, religions have done this, this, and this. Give me my 5,000 peso. I'm like, no, you didn't actually answer the challenge.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
The point went right over your head. Goodbye.
Well, my question to you is,
Sure.
what would make you believe? Like, what situation? Like for me, for instance, it would be an actual manifestation of a thing which has ultimate powers. So you can't make me happy. What would make you happy? What would convert you?
So you're basically asking what would it take to convince me that there's a God of some kind?
Yeah.
And I used to give answers like writing in the sky in a language that everybody can understand that says God exists and stuff like that. But per Matt Dillahunty, I'm not arrogant enough to presume that I can tell the difference between a God and an extremely advanced alien technology. So my response is the same as his, which is I don't know what it would take to convince me that there is a God. But if there is an all-powerful, all-knowing God, that God absolutely would know what it would take to convince me and has not done so, which means that God either doesn't exist or doesn't want me to know he exists. Either way, it's not my problem. So, so I don't.
That's why
I don't know.
when I was reading that thread, I was thinking to myself, what would convince me? That's why it was a good question because it also makes the atheist think. It's like, what would really make me think that?
And I don't know what it would take to convince me. That's my answer. And the fact is, I don't have to know. In fact, this was happening a lot too. This was another theme that I get quite often is that they'll say, well, if you can't present what type of evidence you would accept, then, what's the point of even discussing with you? It's like, no, it's your job to put forward the evidence and then me to assess whether I think it suffices or not. It's not my job to tell you what I will accept because I don't know what I will accept in this case. Because
and I know some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all.
Yeah, I think some theists would say, "Oh, so you don't know what would make you believe in a God, therefore you're doubting your atheism." I would. That's what I presume they would be thinking or saying right now while listening to us.
Sure.
Oh, you guys don't know pala. So why are you still atheists? It's like in my case, just in case somebody's thinking that right now and listening, I have been God-free for 20 years, and I have not had a reason to have it in my life, and I have not found reason for it to be in my life and make me harmonious and happy and just living. So it would have to completely change the way I am living my life for me to believe in it.
And to clarify, I am doubting my atheism. I doubt it all the time. That's what a skeptic does. They constantly question their own beliefs, or lack thereof in this case. I'm constantly questioning myself and what I think. It doesn't mean that I have suddenly become a theist or believe there's a God. It just means that I'm open to addressing that belief at all times, because that's what a skeptic is. But to pretend that, I don't know, therefore how can I possibly reject this? Well, if there's a claim that doesn't have any priors and we have never seen before and has never been demonstrated before, of course I don't know what it would take to convince me. I don't know what kind of evidence I would be looking for. But I will say something about this is that I gave an example to this person, which was I tell you what, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 1 trillion. If you ask your God what it is, and you tell me exactly what it is to the number, then I'm not saying I will believe there's a God, but it will certainly make me take a step back and go, whoa, wait a minute. Am I doing something wrong here? Am I thinking incorrectly? It will really make me think, because that's the odds of somebody getting that right is incredibly low. And if a God wanted to convince me they exist, that would be certainly a good stepping stone. It wouldn't get me all the way there, but it would certainly make me question, because that's amazing. You know, that's better than any magic trick I've ever seen. Just being able to guess a number between 1 and 1 trillion. It's not exactly, it's not evidence of a God, but it is it is something that would lean me more in that direction. Yeah, it would be compelling. Yeah, to make me start questioning even further.
Because then you're gonna want to learn more, know more, and question and study it and figure out like how was this possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, I couldn't rule out the possibility that they're simply a psychic or that they just got lucky, but lucky becomes incredibly unlikely in that case, to the point of absurdity.
Of that guess.
Yeah. But I don't get anything remotely like that. I don't even get anything close to that. What I get are arguments with fallacies, followed by just all kinds of appeals to emotion and all kinds of. I don't get anything like that. I've never seen that before. And it's very telling. God is winning the world's longest game of hide and go seek. So, anyway, so we're coming up on the 8 o'clock mark, and any last words before we call it a day, or anything you want to talk about last?
I think we're good for this episode. It was much lighter. It's really more for entertainment for the members in PATAS, and I think we did tackle a few stuff that are relevant at this day and age, because that is what we're going through, and we are human. That's it.
Unfortunately. No, I'm just joking. Thank you so much, John, again for coming. For coming again to be a co-host. I really appreciate it. I couldn't do it without you, because I'd be just talking to myself for 2 hours, and that would drive me crazy. So I appreciate you coming, and I definitely appreciate PATAS for allowing us to do this stream. Don't forget, of course, to visit the website, patasinc.org, and you can email us at live@patasinc.org. Also, tune in next week. We will be here again taking callers. So if you have any theist friends or theists that you know, or you are a theist yourself, we love to have you, because we definitely prefer to have religious callers on the show. But if you have any questions in general, and you're like an atheist or someone questioning or doubting, we'd love to talk to you too, because we're here for everyone. So hopefully that show was fun for everyone. I definitely had fun. It seemed to be just us talking back and forth about a bunch of relevant things, but not a whole lot of calls, but that's okay. This is probably how it'll go for a while until we get more outreach to the religious groups. But I'm very grateful to have had you. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.